Welcome to the Madison Podcast. Our billions of viewers, we appreciate and love you all. My name is Ben Lavender, New York's favorite British mortgage broker. Today's guest is a true veteran of the business, Ross Keit of Keller Williams Landmark in Queens, right?
Correct.
We have offices. You're an owner. Ross, you have your hands in a lot of places. And when I say real vet of the business, it's you've had your family in the business, you've accomplished a lot. So thank you for coming today. We appreciate you. We're going to talk about everyone's favorite subject, real estate and politics, and go really deep into who and what we care about there. We'll also touch on our lovely event that we have in January with our good friend Joe Sonona. Joe's a legend. We haven't had him on this in a while, actually. We will. And we'll talk about that a little bit. So for those of you who don't know you, Ross, what do most people actually in the business know you for? Because before we started, you talked about a lot, actually. You've had your hands in everywhere. So can you talk about like how that path has really gone for you and where you have all your hands in?
Sure. Ross Keit, Keller Williams Realty Landmark. I run the Keit team over at Keller Williams Realty Landmark in Bayside. One of the principals in the Bayside location and the Jackson Heights location, where we have about 560 agents speaking 40 plus languages. Been doing this for 20 years, over $100 million in total sales. Wow. I'm known as an SOB, son of a broker. My mother's been in this business for 46 years.
Amazing.
We run a large team ourselves. And we were discussing also, besides the real estate side and the sales side, I'm a New York State CE instructor. Yep. Was the president of the Northeast Queens chapter of LIBOR a couple of years back. So I was involved in the LIBOR side, the instructor side, the sales side, the management side, and looking forward to Lead to List in January with our good pal Joe Sonona.
It'll be fun.
It'll be a lot of fun. Looking forward to it.
Tequila, especially Joe.
Especially in the morning for breakfast, right?
Oh, yeah. Coffee and tequila is my favorite.
Right? Goes hand in hand.
Ross, in all these areas of the business that you've worked, do you have, and this is already a charged question, do you have a favorite?
The listing side is definitely something that I enjoy, solving problems. In today's world, there's definitely a lot of problems. We were just sold the second largest sale for a single family detached home in Queens.
Amazing.
We just closed for $5.5 million in Malba.
Amazing.
It took us over 30 days to get into contract, but because there's a lot of intricacies, a lot of negotiations, a lot of personalities we like.
So let's dive a little bit into that. So on a deal like that, right? Because like most people in the business, loan officers too, that hear something like that, like 5.6, wow, it's huge. What is something that agents and LOs like don't expect to transpire on deals like that? Like what issues and things are you kind of solving that you wouldn't on, let's say, a $1 million deal?
I think there's just a lot of more, you have to understand the clientele a little bit better. The luxury buyer is definitely more calculated than your traditional buyer. This property had a couple issues, on title side, DEC side.
Which is not uncommon even for the $1 million ones.
100%. Yeah. Also people's travel schedule, attorneys, contract negotiations, all take a little bit longer. You can't sort of pressure people. They march to their own beat. But once we were able to get into contract, we negotiated favorable terms, no mortgage contingency, and we're able to close in about 60 days.
That's very, very fast.
Yeah, for a luxury deal, we like it.
Yeah, for a luxury deal, it's fast. That's what I meant. So yeah. But that was 30 days of work before going into contract. Correct. So it's a process, but that's the nature of New York real estate anyway.
It's definitely gotten. Things are taking a little bit longer. I don't know if you're seeing it on your end, but on our end, after from accepted offer stage to contract stage, people are doing more due diligence. Home inspections are taking a little bit longer. Negotiations from the home inspections. Some co-ops, a lot of attorneys are doing questionnaires and a lot of due diligence up front. That's taking a little bit longer.
Which should be done anyway, truth be told.
Hey, I'm all for it, always want to have full disclosure for everything we do, right? So everybody's confident when they enter into that contract. Hopefully we've satisfied all the bumps in the road and we're smooth sailing from there.
Yeah, it sounds easier said than done, but it just makes the transaction itself smoother. It's better for the clients. You get a better experience, and at the end of the day, that's what we all want. We want a smooth transaction because that leads to not just getting paid and stuff, but it leads to referrals, or it leads to more business.
Yeah, here, 20 years of myself doing this and 46 years for my mother, we are probably 95% referral business at this point. We
Amazing.
have a lot of different niches. We have a seniors niche, a relocation niche, a luxury niche. When the market was prevalent, a lot of distressed sales in the early 90s, but fast forward, we don't see too many foreclosures nowadays.
So that's really interesting, actually, and I'd love for you to talk more about it, specifically like the different niches that you just mentioned.
Sure.
Right, luxury, senior, etc. How do you get into those? How do you penetrate those markets?
A lot of it is furthering the education. We're a big believer in education. Here I am 20 years. If people looked at my email signature, there's always been a lot of designations over the years.
Right, yeah.
The seniors real estate.
Joe's a fan of that.
Yep. And that's where me and Joe, bonded a lot.
Yeah.
Obviously being part of LIBOR and obviously being a big believer in education, and being able to educate our fellow colleagues out there and ourselves. So, from a seniors real estate specialist, I am, and my mother is as well. She's a certified senior advisor, a green designee, a certified residential specialist. So I've gotten my fair share of designations over the years, and that has allowed me to step into some of these creative programs that we've developed over the years, where we like dealing with the older population, what we call our senior population, and helping them and guiding them in a big step in their career.
Ross, I would assume that population needs some more hand-holding, right?
Well, think about it. They are usually in their home. One of them that I sold recently, they're in their home for 63 years. Yeah. There's a lot of memories. There's a lot of stuff. It's a lot of hand-holding because it's a big step for them, right, and able to give up that home where they raise their kids, seeing their grandkids play, and now they're ready to sell because the house has become too much to handle, too much to manage, and they're off to that next lifestyle move. Who knows if it's here in New York in a assisted living or a smaller setting, or if it's a place in Florida or elsewhere.
So how do you go about going after that market from like a lead gen perspective? Are you networking with homes? Are you
it's a lot of referral based. So in that aspect, we host a lot of lunch and learn seminars at WISE senior centers. Right. We surround ourselves in our networking groups with assisted living professionals, geriatric care managers, elder law attorneys, people where they're around homeowners who will have that need.
It sounds quite sophisticated in how you approach it. Right?
I like how you say sophisticated.
You could try it. You can imitate me. As they say, it's the biggest form of flattery. As long as you do it well, that's how you got to do it. But it really does sound sophisticated because you have all these different angles, and I imagine you have a system for all of it as well. So for each market that you penetrate, I mean, because again, you've been doing it 24 years. Your mom, you said 40
myself
years
20, my mother 46.
46, yeah. Right. So do you like build each of these segments? Because when you say it verbally, it sounds extremely daunting, right? That is a lot to handle. So I imagine you're doing one, or you did one at a time, right? And on top of it, you're owner of a brokerage and you have a team. It's a lot. How do you handle that?
Time management is always key. Lack of sleep, having a supportive wife to take care of the home life and the kids is a big help in every aspect. But it definitely has taken time. It has definitely evolved over the years. Right. There's never we have this seniors program up and running and we don't have to revisit it or, let it evolve or change things.
There's maintenance involved.
Of course, there's always is. And there's always different ways to go about trying to promote the business, whether, like I said before, the lunch and learn seminars, whether it's talking to HR managers, there's so many different segments. Obviously, it all overlaps and comes back to real estate, from the seniors to the luxury to the relocation. There's always people. Great thing about New York, everybody's always coming and going, right? We're the biggest finance capital, fashion capital. We have 8.5 million people just in New York City. Right. Plus then you factor in, Nassau and Suffolk counties. we're out of space and everybody wants to be in New York. So
I don't blame them. It's awesome here. You know, I have days where I'm like, maybe it's time to go to Florida, but that's like 3 a year when it's cold outside.
It's always
and I'm
nice to visit for a few days, but
yeah,
you know
exactly.
what?
Moving
Our
is
winters
another
have been
story.
mild, and there's no place like New York.
Recently, they've been great.
Yeah,
They've
and we like change of season.
Yes,
See the
agreed.
fall foliage. Yeah,
I'm 100% with you. I had a question. Yes, what is your favorite way to stay in touch with your past clients? How do you stay in touch with them in a meaningful way, right? Because most agents, loan officers too, they struggle with that, right? How do I stay in touch with them beyond just asking for referrals? How do I build value and be a friend?
the biggest thing that my biggest aha or takeaway over the years has been noting and following up in many different ways on their home anniversary. Right. Whether it's on a purchase or a sale.
It's a great one.
Being able to take that photo at closing, being able to call them, stop by their home on their 1 year anniversary. They're like, wow, time flies. And then you get to see all the progressions. And, I've seen the kids when they were born to the kids now, graduating high school, and, the parents are almost at the empty nester stage. So obviously having some sort of, CRM to notate when their 1 year anniversary is, and also make note throughout the transaction when you hear things that are, birthdays, anniversaries, and being able to be that realtor that says, hey, just want to wish you a happy birthday,
Right.
And whether in person you drop off a basket at their home, or if they're not local, a phone call or a video message.
And you can do that because the part is the hard part that people find is to be genuine with that. Okay. And I think as long as you're invested in your clients in a genuine way, which you should be if you're in this business, you won't feel awkward doing it. It's like I have like a schedule of basically, I go through my Facebook birthdays, I reach out to everyone. If I have their personal cell, I make sure to actually text them or drop them a voice note. I think it's more meaningful than doing it on Facebook. But
100%.
And then I have in my CRM, same thing, like we have, doesn't sound as good as like closing anniversary, but loan anniversary. It's so cheesy, but it's true. It's like, by the way, you check in, we did it a year ago. It's the same thing. And same thing with the client birthdays. We get them and I make sure to go I don't do it every day, but I try and do it every day.
Yeah, that's how I start my morning, is just trying to, start off on a positive note, check the Facebook, check,
It feels good though.
It feels nice. Yeah. You want to start off the morning with, positivity and, gratefulness. And it's, a good way to reach out to somebody else and make them feel warm and fuzzy.
Yeah, it's you start your day off on a positive note, which in this business you often need, because it's a very up and down emotional business, especially if you're new. For us, we've been doing this for a while. It's not the same.
And if you turn on the news and look at the stock market every day, it's not a way to.
Yeah, don't do that. I'm not a fan. Like, I'm invested in the news, but it's another thing that I see lately, especially social media knows how to draw you in.
Of course.
The rage bait, right? It's like it's important to stay away from that.
Stay away. Start off with a good mindset.
It's not going to do anything for you.
Definitely not.
Yeah,
definitely not.
Also, I wanted to ask you as well. Your team, right? What do you think, and this is basically a full-on blank canvas to brag as much as you want to or not, but why do you feel that your team chooses to work for you? And the obvious answer is mentorship, right, and leading, but I'd like you to be more specific if you could, please.
I think it's an ever-evolving circle with when it comes to team. We've had people that have been with us for a long time, 14, 15 years. And currently we're actually looking for more team members. We've had some people leave, we like them when they leave us. That means they're spreading their wings. They learned a lot and they're, going to try this on their own.
Yeah, everyone does eventually.
Yeah. And that means that hopefully we've done a good job when you feel confident enough to go ahead and do this on your own. So we're definitely looking for more team members right now. I think our experience, our know-how, our ability to problem solve, we're genuine, we're friends first, we're just not we're never a boss employee, because obviously we're realtors, but, and we're 1099. But I think people gravitate towards us because of how long we've been doing this. You have to be doing something well or multiple things well. If you're doing this for 46 years and 20 years, think about that. That's, combined experiences over 6 decades worth of real estate sales, over 5,000 homes sold, so people want access to to those properties, to those opportunities to go get more listings and work more buyers. And they get full access to us besides being mentored. You know, I think everybody's, especially in today's world, and no matter what business you're in, everybody's looking for a coach, right?
Yeah.
If you're Michael Jordan, if you're Oprah, you know, everybody's still getting coached. You know, why not have the ability to get coached on a regular basis by people who've been doing this for a very long time?
Especially if you're new. I mean, I would argue that it's like it should be mandatory, honestly, because the testing, right, doesn't prep you for generating business.
The 77 hours or whatever it is, 77 and a half hours plus the class test and state test does not prep you at all for this business.
Yeah. It preps you for what, like laws and which is stuff
it's
do
important.
and should need to know.
100%.
Right? But not for generating business.
No, and I think the key to this business, which most people forget, is that you have to be likable.
Right.
You have to be able to develop a rapport with somebody. Like half the time, people don't know what company I work for.
Yeah.
They hire me or they choose to work with me because they like me.
You're the brand.
Yeah, I'm the brand. I'm the brand. They like me. We get along. We bond over. You know, I'm a big golfer. Been playing golf for 30 years. So whether we bond over golf or some other common interests, you know, they do business with people they like, right?
What was your favorite way to build rapport with new clients, buyers or sellers, if you have a favorite?
Hey, you can catch me on the golf course with, you know, clients all the time. You know, it's been always a big way that I get business done. You know, I like golfing with people on the golf course because, you know what, you get to learn a lot about them. Right. You know, if they cheat in golf, they cheat in life and business. You know, so it's.
I don't know much about golf. Is it easy to cheat in golf?
Oh, it can definitely be easy to cheat in golf. Yeah. You know, but you don't want to do business with people like that. So you learn a lot on that 4 or 5 hours on a golf course.
Yeah. Okay, so that's everyone should have their shtick. You know, that's one of your many shticks, essentially, of generating rapport. For newer people in the business, what do you feel is something that is often overlooked on the agent side, that they get in and they didn't expect it to be this way?
So obviously TV makes this business look easy. Yeah, you know,
and extremely glamorous,
right?
Yeah. Look at the average realtor's car, the inside of the car specifically, and you realize with all the sheets and everything how unglamorous it can be.
Yeah. You know, so I think, you know, TV definitely does a you know, it's unjust, you know, to what the actual business is like.
Yeah.
I think agents, you know, have a misconception when it comes to that. I think they also overlook all the people that are in their phone and that they already know. They're always out to chase.
How so?
I think they're always out to chase new business.
Yeah.
They're always out to meet people they don't know, and they don't focus on the people they do know. You know, some of the interesting stats in like our company, right? When we all look back on our business throughout the years, and not just locally, but on a national level, you know, when people look back where their business came from, you know, about 70-80% of the business comes from people they already know.
So do you feel that there's a reason why they're reluctant to reach out to people in their own network?
I think they're always scared. You know, it's kind of like if you think about it yourself, right? If you went back into your phone and, you know, had to reach out to somebody that you haven't talked to in 5 or 6 years, maybe that's scary. Right. Maybe that's uncomfortable, right? In this business, a lot of what we do is getting comfortable doing the uncomfortable.
So let's get some advice from you then. If I was an agent, you know, same thing. I need to build, like I'm brand new to the business and I need to work my sphere or reach back out for them or change someone that I haven't spoken to in 5 years into a warm, whether it's someone that I can do business with directly or potentially get referrals from. How would you advise me to rebuild that rapport with them?
A lot of it is putting your tail between your legs, you know, apologizing, you know, being apologetic for not reaching out, for losing touch, you know, and making a promise and making sure you fulfill that promise to do a better job at staying in touch with you. You know, hey, you know, Ben, you know,
humility goes a long way.
It does, you know, like I'm not here to like, you know, we're all trying to be like, wow, like I just drove past the home that I sold, you know, for you 10 years ago. Yeah. Sorry we lost touch, but it brought back some good memories and some fun times that we had when working on your sale. I wanted to check in and see how you're doing and making sure that I make a promise to you of doing a better job at staying in touch.
I like that. What if it's someone that let's say again I'm brand new and I used to work for, I don't know, a medical company. I was some type of coordinator, and it's an old colleague of mine that I haven't spoken to for 3 years, but I want to reach out to develop rapport with for potential. How would you advise they do it that way? Like same kind of thing, I would imagine.
Yeah, same kind of thing. Like look, we worked together for X amount of years. In the medical field business. We had a lot of good times. I want to let you know that I recently transitioned into a career in real estate. I wanted you to keep me in mind in case you hear of anybody that's in your company that has any real estate needs that I can help with. Yeah. And have you ever thought about getting your real estate license, right? There's a lot of opportunity for people who are, not just full-time. There's part-time opportunities. There's referral holding company opportunities where you can just get your license, go into a holding company, and be able to refer business. Interesting. Not do this on a day-to-day. So there's a lot of different ways. Obviously, people do the investment side, the flip side. There's so many different ways to utilize real estate, as a second career or a third career. Yeah. Sometimes doing this, if you're brand new, doing this full-time is always preferred, but it's kind of scary if you're not going to get paid for 2, 3, 4, 5 months.
Very. You should have a backup or 100%. Something and transition intelligently.
Yes, correct.
I want to shift gears, and thank you for that, by the way, because that's like actually useful, right? And it's something that I know people struggle with a lot. Loan officers as well, for sure, they struggle with it. And humility it goes a long way. People can bond with you more if you're vulnerable. Like put your ego at the door.
We've all had some good years. Anybody can have a good year when rates were low. Everybody
it rained. You'd wake up with your phones like, oh, okay, great, like another deal. I want to shift to the event that brought us together.
Absolutely.
To Lead to List by our good friend Joe Sonona. The future is now, or the future is here. I keep forgetting. He's going to kill me for that. Have you actually been involved in any of the prior ones?
I've been in attendance, but not. I feel honored to be asked to be on as one of the panelists. I see we have a great group of fellow speakers.
I'm trying to interview everyone before we get there, but it's a lot of them.
Hopefully, they all do this because it's kind of fun and different, and we get to be prepared, for this.
So what value do you think you're going to be, or what are you going to be talking about at the event, or what will the audience benefit from you specifically, Ross?
I think, at the end of the day, I think Joe's a great moderator, so I'm looking forward to the questions, whether it's, my experience, on the sales side, all the different niches, the luxury, the seniors, the relocation, the listing side, obviously doing this for a very long time, having a very successful closing rate over, like I said, over $100 million in closed volume. My mother and I, over 5,000 properties sold, over 6 decades worth of sales. I think
you're saying it in a very like nonchalant manner, but that is freakish for those of you who don't know. Those are big boy numbers.
So, hopefully the audience will appreciate whatever I have to share and hopefully get them excited. I like the fact that it's in January, start of the year. Hopefully give everybody some tidbits.
There's a lot in that noggin. We're going to
extract it, right?
as much as we can.
And hopefully it's a good way for everybody to kick off 2026.
I agree. I think it's going to be wonderful. I was part of it last year, and obviously again this year. I like the vibe. I like the energy. Joe's also very entertaining.
He is.
He's a funny guy. He's a great speaker. I do my share amount of public speaking as well.
I was with him and you at the New York City Expo. I love Sonona Speaks. He's a great speaker, great presenter. Lot to offer.
Great storyteller too.
Yeah,
it's a skill set that I need to master myself. He's so good at it.
Good.
And he's such a character too.
Yeah.
He's always got
and know what? First and foremost, very good friend.
Yes, for sure. He's a vet of the business too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hard worker, a grinder as well. And he advocates for his clients, and he cares. He actually cares, and he enjoys connecting with people in the business. It's not just like this blanket event that you come into, people speak. He goes out of his way to give everyone attention. He does care.
Absolutely.
I can't wait for it either. It's going to be fun. Again, how much tequila we do not drink that
with
morning.
breakfast.
We will have to wait and see. I wanted to shift gears from the business side of agents, loan officers, how we do things. And we've got 5 minutes remaining here,
Sure.
Ross. It's crazy how quickly.
I was going to say that flew by.
It's nuts. It's always nuts. I want to talk more about buyers and sellers specifically. How the market, not the market has changed, because we know we can chat GPT numbers if we want to, but more so how people's expectations of the market, like what trends are you seeing in buyer and seller behavior that's happening frequently that you have to kind of address up front with them and be like, this is the way it is, it's not so.
Obviously, we can always talk about the rates and that, but rates are actually very attractive now.
Agreed.
I think people are just have an overall cautious feel to it. People are monitoring, in New York City, the political climate, with the new mayor coming in. I think there's also the
Mamdani effect.
I think there's also a lot of people that have sat still for 4 or 5 years, and they were trying to time the market. And now there's a lot of people ready to make a move, but it is a big investment. A lot of people unfortunately have a lot of debt that sort of, handcuff their plans, and then when you factor in kids and everything and cost of living. Yeah. So I think, realtors become more advisors at first. I think there's a lot of planning and prepping, both on the buyer side and the seller side, where, back in the day I may have gone, someone calls me to come list their home. Now I'm getting a lot of calls to say, hey, I'm thinking about listing my home. Want to see if there's something I need to do for my home itself to get it into shape. Or, let's talk about my options. Where am I moving to? Am I going to something bigger, something smaller? Am I staying here in New York, or am I going elsewhere? Buyers want to understand numbers better. They want to understand more about the home and what it costs to maintain and what's involved in bringing things up to their expectations. And sometimes it's just setting expectations, understanding that, things are not always roses and unicorns, and, like real life kicks in, like on the mortgage side, you're able to do everything on a debt to income ratio, but we always like to say, what about your lifestyle? Are you really willing to give up Uber Eats and going out to dinner, twice a week, because you have a mortgage payment, or you want your cake and eat it too, so there's a give and a take. So I think there's more consulting and advising on both sides of the spectrum going on now than before.
I think everyone should go in with that mindset, honestly. Like, of course, when the economy gets tighter, you have to be a little bit more cautious. But there's a line that I always say to my buyers. I say it probably 4 or 5 times a day when I'm speaking and I'm consulting with people, is that obviously the price of the home is important. You want to make sure you're getting a fair deal, all that. But the number to really focus on is what your monthly payment is. Mm-hmm. Okay, and as we know, with differences in things like insurance and property taxes, in some cases, the payment on a $600,000 house can be as the same as one for $1 million. Mm-hmm. So don't focus on a price. Focus on the payments. Make sure you're getting a fair deal.
You don't know what interest rate you have on your car lease, right? Right? But what your payment is.
I do. But yeah.
Most people know what their payment is, and that's really the number to focus on, is what your monthly payment is. And making sure you feel comfortable, because you don't want to be house rich and cash poor at the end of the day. You want to be able to enjoy your home, enjoy life, and not just,
it takes planning, but
be a hermit.
Yeah, if you have good advisors, and I don't know the exact number, but there are a good amount of real estate professionals in the business that buyers can work with. It's like any other business, the top, 10, 15% of the people that you want to work with that have done it 1 million times. But I don't think they're hard to find, actually. No. They're everywhere. They market themselves well. They're easily referred. So with that said, we are going to finish up. Ross, any final words of wisdom that you have for our audience?
I always say education is key. That's where Joe Sonona on this Lead to List, seminar comes into play. So hopefully everybody, chooses to attend and registers today. And it'll be a phenomenal event, and looking forward to seeing everybody there and wishing everybody happy holiday season.
Thank you very much, Ross. Come to Lead to List, or I will come to your house. I'm just joking. Ross, thank you very much.
Thanks, Ben.